Radian measure is much more common in maths than the angles that we use for higher maths. The radian measure is actually very simple. The first thing that needs to be talked about is what is the length of an arc. Let's take a look here. If this is an angle, one way of finding the angle is in degree, so the smallest space is degree. So that's how we measure the angle. Another way is to cut out a unit circle like this. A unit circle is a circle with a radius 1, and to take the arc length of this, that thing is called the radian measure. So this is very convenient. Instead of taking the smallest space as a degree, if we actually take this geometric arc length. Now the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. If r equals to 1, radius is 1, then circumference, this entire arc length, which is represented by 360 degree, can actually be called 2 pi. That's the entire circumference. So we can actually say that 360 degree that we can measure. So 360 degree is 2 pi. That's what it is. So you can call it 2 pi, the entire circumference where the radius is 1. We are talking about unit radius. Now half of the circle is going to be 180 degree. That is half of the circle. So half of the circle is 180 degree, half of this is going to be pi. So the arc length from here to here, that is pi. So this is the entire circle. This is half the arc length, pi. Now half of that is 90 degree. So half of pi is going to be pi by 2. So that's going to be arc length of a quadrant. Arc length of a quadrant. Now again we can go further. Half of that is going to be 45 degree. So half of pi by 2 is going to be pi by 4. The arc length is going to be perhaps something like this. So something like this. And we can have other angles as well. We can have 30 degree and 60 degree. These are the most common angles. So we have 30 degree, we have 60 degree, we have also 270 degree. So those are like, if you consider 180 degree to be pi, so there's a reference with 180 degree and 30. 180 by 6 is 30, so this will be pi by 6. 180 by 3 is 60, this will be pi by 3, and this is 3 pi by 2. So this is the radians that we talk about. This is the radian measure. So the radians are the arc lengths. So next time if you just memorize it, 360 degrees 2 pi, coming from the entire arc length of the circumference 2 pi r, where the unit circle is r equals to 1, so it's going to be 2 pi. 180 degree of half, it's a semicircle, arc length of a semicircle. This is a quadrant, and so on and on. So the radian measure is actually coming from the arc length. So from here we can actually write it out. So we can write it as sine 45 degree and sine 90 degree and sine 180 degree. So what can it be? So if you write it out, sine 45 degree pi by 4 is 1 by root 2, because sine 45 degree means pi by 4, so the value is the same. Then if we talk about sine 60 degree, which is pi by 3, is going to be opposite by hypotenuse, root 3 by 2. Then if we talk about sine 30 degree, which is going to be pi by 6, that is going to be half. So it's the same. The relationship between the radian and the degree, the values are going to be the same, because it doesn't really matter what the angle, how we are referring to it as degree or as radian. Only it's the reference, but the values are going to be the same. So we have pi by 4 45 degree, pi by 3 60 degree, pi by 6 30 degree. So we can also have the other values. These three are from the triangles, this triangle 45 degree triangle, and from the 60-30 triangle. We can also have the other values. So we know that sine 0 degree can have a value of 0, then sine 90 degree, which is pi by 2, has a value of 1, sine 180 degrees pi has a value of 0 as well. Then we have sine 270 degree, which is 3 pi by 2, it has a value of -1. Then we have back to 360 degree, which we write as 2 pi. So sine 2 pi is going to have a value of 0, because 0 and 2 pi has the same position. So these are the radian measures that we can have from the sine ratio. So it's the same, so it has to be something getting used to how the radian measure is going on about. So 360 degree is 2 pi, 180 degree is pi, 90 degree is pi by 2, 45 degrees pi by 4, half of pi by 2 is pi by 4, 30 degrees pi by 6, 60 degrees pi by 3, 270 degrees 3 pi by 2. So if you remember that, it will be very easy for you to do the radian measure in the trigonometric ratios. After the angles, the next thing to talk about is the trigonometric identities.